This is part 3 of the series, Navigating the Q2 or Question 2 prose excerpt. In this part of the series, we'll be looking at some samples of thesis statements and body paragraphs that might have received each of the scores in the evidence and commentary section of the rubric. To review the rubric, we have up to 4 points possible, and today we'll be looking at samples that are for scores of 1, 2, 3, and 4. The prompt asks students to write an essay that analyzes how Ann Petrie, the author, uses literary devices to establish a relationship between the main character, Ludi Johnson, and the urban setting in which she lives in her 1946 novel, The Street. In the sample for the first score point, we'll notice that the thesis statement is highlighted in pink. This indicates that it would not have received the thesis point in the first section of the rubric. And that's because the student fails to name the kind of relationship that Ludi Johnson has with the urban environment. You'll notice in the body paragraph that we have no direct quotes from the text. We do have some paraphrasing of some ideas that are provided in the text, but remember, to receive 2 points, we have to have some direct evidence. This student does try to talk about Petrie's use of imagery, particularly images of garbage blowing in the wind, but does not make a relationship between Ludi Johnson and the urban setting, just says that those images are used to, quote, set up her urban setting. For the second score point, you'll notice that the thesis is still highlighted in pink, showing that while it's a little bit better than the 1 score point, it still fails to make a relationship between Ludi Johnson and the urban environment, saying instead that the author conveys a unique message and aids the reader in understanding the message without naming what that message actually is. You'll notice in the body paragraph that this student does use direct evidence from the text, which is what provides that 2 points, but that when asked to make a relationship between Ludi Johnson and the urban environment, the student can only say that the personification of the wind serves as a literal experience and also a powerful figurative comparison. So using some nice words, but not saying a whole lot about the actual text or passage, and nothing about the relationship between Ludi and the urban environment. For the 3 score point, you'll notice that the thesis statement has now been highlighted in yellow to show that it would have received the thesis point. Here, the student author says that Ann Petrie personifies the wind as a destructive force capable of controlling the lives of human beings, and also responds with Ludi Johnson's reaction to that wind. She outlaughs it because she finds her way despite its annoying persistence. In the body paragraph, I tried to show how this student is both successful and unsuccessful in their evidence and commentary. The student uses direct quotes from the text in an apt way, connecting it to this urban environment and to Ludi Johnson, but has a tendency to make a statement, the wind is personified as a dominant, controlling person, but then to just repeat what that statement was in the next section of analysis. It can do all of the things a dominant human being would do. This means that the student is just sort of wasting words in the body paragraph, and that keeps them from being able to really have an effective line of reasoning, which is the difference between the highest score point and the lower score points in this section of the rubric. For the 4 points score on this rubric, we can see that the student is doing everything right. They've got a strong thesis statement showing that Ludi Johnson is characterized by the nature of her adversary, the soul of the city or the wind, and that relationship between the environment and Ludi is adversarial. They also show that Ann Petrie, the author, establishes this through imagery and personification. In the body paragraph, you'll notice that the student author is talking about the wind and how it is essentially a living being that is determined and mischievous, but the author also provides a series of subclaims that enhance that argument throughout the body paragraph in order to show Ludi Johnson's relationship and her reaction to the urban setting. In the next part of this series, we'll look at building a line of reasoning so we can have more clarity about that.